I stopped by First National Bank on a Tuesday morning to discuss refinancing my mortgage. As I approached the manager's office, I froze. Through the partially open door, I heard my daughter-in-law, Christina, telling the bank manager that I was no longer mentally competent. She waved what appeared to be a doctor's letter. My heart pounded. My late wife died just 8 months ago. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and pressed myself against the wall outside the office, capturing every word while my blood ran cold. My name is Pascal. I am 68 years old, and until that moment in the bank, I thought I had my life figured out. I spent 42 years as an electrical engineer, raised a good son, and built a comfortable retirement with my wife Helen. When she passed from cancer 8 months ago, the world lost its color. But I kept going. I paid my bills on time, maintained my house, drove carefully, and tried to honor her memory by living well. Standing outside that office with my phone recording, I felt like I had stepped into a nightmare. Christina's voice came through clearly. She was explaining to the bank manager, a man I later learned was named Gary Thompson, that I had been showing signs of dementia and confusion since Helen's death. Her tone was syrupy with fake concern. "He forgets to pay bills," she said. "Last week, I found him standing in his kitchen with the stove on, not remembering he'd turned it on. He gets lost driving to places he's been going to for decades." None of this was true. Not one word. Gary's voice responded, cautious. "Mrs. Palmer, these are serious allegations. Do you have documentation?" "Right here," Christina said. I heard papers rustling. "This is a letter from Dr. Raymond Foster, his primary care physician. It clearly states that Pascal is no longer mentally fit to manage his own finances. Dr. Foster recommends immediate intervention before Pascal becomes a danger to himself or falls victim to scammers." My hands shook as I held the phone. Dr. Foster had been my doctor for 15 years. He would never write such a letter because there was nothing wrong with me. I balanced my checkbook every month. I had never left the stove on. I knew every street in this town like the back of my hand. "I need to be added as co-owner on all of his accounts," Christina continued. "His savings, checking, and I need access to his safe deposit box. My husband Derek and I are just trying to protect him." "Derek, my son. Did he know about this?" "How much are we talking about?" Gary asked. "His savings account has approximately $350,000, Christina said, plus the checking account, and he owns his home outright. The property is worth about $600,000. I'm worried someone will take advantage of him. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so terrifying." Gary hemmed and hawed. "I'll need to verify this documentation. And honestly, Mrs. Palmer, we usually require the account holder to be present for changes like this. That's exactly the problem." Christina's voice turned sharp with frustration. "He doesn't understand what's happening to him. If we wait for him to agree, he could lose everything. Surely there are provisions for situations like this?" "There are conservatorship procedures," Gary said slowly. "But those go through the courts." I was about to step into the office, to confront them both, to demand answers. But then Christina said something that made me freeze. "Once I have control, Derek and I can finally move forward with the plan. The old man won't even know what hit him." My breath caught in my throat. Gary's response came quietly. "I need legitimate paperwork, Christina. I can't just hand over someone's life savings." "You'll get your cut, Gary," Christina said, and her voice had gone cold, businesslike. "Just like we discussed. $20,000 for your cooperation. All you have to do is process the paperwork and look the other way." The bank manager was in on it. This wasn't just my daughter-in-law trying to steal from me. This was a conspiracy, a coordinated plan involving someone I should have been able to trust with my money. I backed away from the door, my mind racing. Every instinct screamed at me to burst in there, to call the police, to expose them right now. But something stopped me. If the bank manager was corrupt, who else might be? What if I called the police, and they didn't believe me? Christina had a forged doctor's letter. She had prepared her lies carefully. I needed to be smarter than they were. I slipped out of the bank, got into my car, and sat there trembling. I checked the recording on my phone. It was clear, every word captured, but I knew, with a sinking feeling in my stomach, that this was just the beginning. I drove home in a fog, my mind churning through everything I had heard. Christina and Derek had been married for 4 years. She came into our lives at the grief support group I attended when Helen was first diagnosed. Derek met her there. She seemed so kind, so supportive. She brought me casseroles after Helen died, called to check on me, remembered my birthday. It was all an act. As soon as I got home, I called Dr. Foster's office. The receptionist put me through to a nurse. "I need to verify a letter," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Supposedly from Dr. Foster, regarding my mental competency." There was a pause. "Mr. Palmer, Dr. Foster hasn't written any such letter. When was your last appointment?" 3 weeks ago. "For my annual physical. He said I was in excellent health for my age." "That's what our records show," the nurse confirmed. "Sir, if someone is forging Dr. Foster's signature, that's a serious crime. Would you like to file a report?" "Yes," I said. "But I need to gather more evidence first." I hung up and walked through my house, really looking at it for the first time in weeks. My home office, where I kept all my important documents, seemed undisturbed at first glance. But when I checked my filing cabinet, I noticed things were slightly out of order. My will wasn't in its usual spot. My property deed had been moved. Insurance policies were in the wrong folders. Someone had been going through my papers. I pulled out the filing cabinet from the wall to check behind it, something I hadn't done in years. A manila folder fell out from where it had been wedged between the cabinet and the wall. It must have been dropped there and fallen into the gap. Inside were printed emails. My blood turned to ice as I read them. The emails were between Christina and someone named J.R. The dates went back 18 months. The inheritance timeline needs to move faster. Derek is getting impatient. Derek doesn't need to know everything. Let him think we're doing this for Pascal's benefit. Once we have conservatorship, Pascal's stubbornness won't matter. We can place him in a facility and liquidate everything. JR, we've done this before. Trust the process. The old man won't see it coming. I sat down hard in my desk chair. They had been planning this since before Helen died, maybe even longer. I opened my laptop and checked the browser history. Someone had been using my computer. The searches made my skin crawl. Early signs of dementia in elderly men. How to prove someone is mentally incompetent. Conservatorship laws. Followed by my state name. Elder care facilities with my zip code. They were building a case against me, manufacturing evidence of decline. I went to my closet and pulled out the small box where I kept electronics I rarely used. Inside was a set of tiny cameras I had bought years ago for a home security project I never completed. They were designed to look like smoke detectors. I spent the next 2 hours installing them. One in my living room, positioned to capture anyone who entered through the front door. Another in my kitchen, aimed at the counter and table. I downloaded the app to my phone and tested them. Perfect. That evening, Derek came over for our usual Tuesday dinner. It was a tradition we had kept up since Helen died. Every Tuesday, Derek would stop by, and we would eat together. Usually something simple. Tonight, I had made spaghetti. I watched my son carefully as we ate, searching his face for signs that he knew what Christina was planning. He seemed normal, talking about his work as a commercial real estate agent, complaining about difficult clients, asking how I was doing. Christina mentioned she stopped by yesterday to drop off some groceries. Derek said casually. "Did you get them?" "I did," I said, keeping my voice neutral. That was thoughtful of her. Christina hadn't mentioned any groceries when I saw her at the bank today. She had a key to my house, something I had given her and Derek for emergencies. "She worries about you, Dad," Derek continued. "We both do. 8 months isn't that long. Are you really doing okay?" "I'm fine, son," I said firmly. "I miss your mother every day, but I'm managing." Derek nodded, but something in his expression troubled me. "If you ever need help, you'd tell me, right? If things got to be too much?" "Of course," I lied. After Derek left, I sat in my living room thinking. He seemed genuinely concerned, not scheming. Either he was a tremendous actor, or Christina had kept him in the dark about the extent of her plans. Around 10 that night, I checked the camera app on my phone. My heart nearly stopped. The cameras had recorded something while I was making dinner and sitting with Derek. Earlier that day, At around 2 in the afternoon, Christina had entered my house. She wasn't alone. A man I didn't recognize was with her, tall, maybe 40 years old, brown hair. I watched the footage, with growing horror. Christina and the man moved through my living room, talking in low voices. Christina went to my kitchen counter and spread out a stack of bills, positioning them prominently. Then she took my car keys, which I always left on the front table, and carried them to the kitchen. The footage showed her opening my freezer and putting the keys inside. "This should be enough," she told the man. "When Derek comes over, he'll notice the unpaid bills." "I already told him his dad has been forgetting things." The man laughed. "What about the keys?" "I'll tell Derek I found them in the freezer last week," Christina said. "Classic dementia behavior, putting things in strange places." My keys weren't in the freezer. They were on my front table, right where I always left them. But if Christina had put them there earlier, and then found them, she could use it as evidence. I fast-forwarded the footage. The man looked around my house appraisingly. "Nice place," he said. "Worth the wait?" "More than worth it," Christina replied. "Between the house, the savings, and the life insurance, we're looking at over $1 million. Derek gets half as the son, but he'll sign it all over to me. He trusts me completely." "Your husband is weak," the man said. "When are you going to tell him the truth about us?" Christina laughed, and the sound made my stomach turn. "Derek doesn't need to know about you, Jason. He thinks we're doing this to care for his father. He has no idea we're planning to drain everything and disappear to Costa Rica. By the time he figures it out, we'll be gone." Jason. So that was JR from the emails. Jason Reeves, probably. I watched them stage more evidence. Christina moved my medications around, making them look disorganized. She placed a coffee mug in a cabinet where dishes belonged. Small things, subtle things, that could add up to paint a picture of a man losing his grip on reality. Before they left, Jason pulled Christina close and kissed her. "I love you," he said. "I love you too," Christina replied. "Just a little longer, and we'll have everything we need." They left through the front door, locking it behind them. I sat in the dark, the phone screen casting a pale glow on my face. Christina wasn't just stealing from me. She was betraying Derek, planning to abandon him and take everything. My grandson, 6-year-old Ethan, would lose his mother. Derek would lose his wife, his inheritance, and his father, all in one devastating blow. I couldn't let that happen. The next morning, I drove to the office of Harold Brennan, my attorney. Harold and I had known each other for 30 years. He handled Helen's estate after she passed, and I trusted him completely. I walked into his office and closed the door behind me. "Pascal," Harold said, standing up from behind his desk. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," I said, and I showed him everything. The recording from the bank, the emails I found, the camera footage of Christina and Jason staging evidence in my house. Harold's face grew darker as he watched and listened. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, hands steepled under his chin. "This is serious," he said finally. "Elder fraud, conspiracy, forgery, potentially more. But Pascal, we have to be careful how we proceed." "Careful?" I felt anger rising in my chest. "Harold, they're trying to steal everything I have. I want to go to the police right now." "I understand," Harold said calmly. "But think about this from the other side. Christina has a forged doctor's letter. She's staged evidence in your home. If she claims you're paranoid and delusional, and she has that documentation, it could get complicated. The courts take elder abuse seriously, but they also take mental competency seriously. We need an airtight case before we make our move." I slumped in my chair. "So what do I do?" "Gather more evidence," Harold said. "Keep recording. Document everything. And let me do some quiet checking. I want to see if Christina has filed any legal paperwork regarding you." "How long will that take?" "A few days," Harold promised. Those few days felt like years. I continued my normal routine, pretending everything was fine. I ate the food Christina brought over, but I threw it away when she left, terrified it might be tampered with. I smiled at Derek when he called, told him I was doing great, even as my heart broke knowing what was coming. Harold called me 4 days later. His voice was grim. "Pascal, You need to come to my office right away." When I arrived, Harold had documents spread across his desk. "Christina filed a petition 3 weeks ago," he said. "She's seeking emergency conservatorship over you. The claim is that you're a danger to yourself due to cognitive decline. She has submitted the forged doctor's note, statements from neighbors claiming they've seen you acting confused, and a detailed account of incidents that allegedly prove you can't care for yourself." "What incidents?" I asked, though I already knew. "The keys in the freezer that were never there, the bills she spread on my counter, the stove she claimed I left on. The hearing is scheduled for next Monday," Harold continued. "That's 9 days from now. If she wins, Pascal, she'll have control of everything. Your assets, your medical decisions, where you live. She could put you in a facility, and you wouldn't be able to stop her. 9 days. We fight it," I said. "We will," Harold assured me. "But I want you prepared for what's coming. Christina knows we only have 9 days. She's going to escalate." He was right. The next evening, Derek called me. His voice was strained. "Dad, can we talk?" "Of course, son. What's wrong?" "Christina came home crying today," Derek said. "She said you accused her of stealing from you. She said you grabbed her arm and got aggressive when she tried to help you organize your medications." "Dad, what's going on?" My blood ran cold. "Derek, that never happened. I haven't seen Christina since Tuesday when she dropped off those groceries." "She has bruises, Dad," Derek said quietly. "On her arm. She took pictures. Self-inflicted, or from Jason. Christina was manufacturing assault charges against me." "Derek, listen to me," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Something very bad is happening, and I need you to trust me. Christina is not who you think she is. She's planning something, and I have proof." "Dad," Derek interrupted, and I heard the pain in his voice. "Mom just died 8 months ago. Grief can do strange things to people. Maybe you're not remembering things clearly. Maybe we should get you checked out by a doctor, just to be safe." "I don't need a doctor," I said. "I need you to believe me." "I want to believe you," Derek said. "But Christina has been nothing but kind to you. And you're accusing her of what, exactly? Trying to steal from you? Why would she do that? I make good money. We don't need yours." I couldn't tell him about Jason. Not over the phone. Not like this. "Can you come over?" I asked. "I have things I need to show you." "I can't tonight," Derek said. "Look, let's talk this weekend, okay? But Dad, please, if Christina tries to help you, let her. She's worried about you. We both are." He hung up before I could respond. I stood in my kitchen, phone in my hand, feeling the walls closing in. Christina had turned my son against me. She was smarter than I had given her credit for. 2 days later, everything fell apart. I woke up to pounding on my front door. When I opened it, 2 police officers stood on my porch. "Pascal Palmer?" one of them asked. "Yes? We have a complaint filed by Christina Palmer. She states that you assaulted her, that you grabbed her and shoved her when she attempted to provide care. We need you to come with us." "That's not true," I said. "I never touched her." "Sir, she has photographic evidence of bruises and a witness statement," the officer said. "We're issuing a restraining order. You are not to come within 500 feet of Christina Palmer." Derek's car pulled up behind the police cruiser. My son got out, his face pale and confused. "Dad, what's happening?" "Your wife is lying," I said. "Derek, you have to believe me." Christina emerged from the passenger side of Derek's car. She had a bandage on her arm, and her eyes were red, as if she had been crying. She looked at me with an expression of fear so convincing that for a moment, even I almost believed her performance. "I'm so sorry," she said to the officers, her voice trembling. "I just wanted to help him. I never thought he would hurt me." "Dad." Derek looked at me, and I saw the doubt in his eyes. "Why would you do this?" "I didn't," I said desperately. "Derek, she's setting me up. I have proof. Please, just listen." "Sir, you need to stop talking," one of the officers said. "Anything you say can be used against you." They handed me paperwork, a restraining order. Christina could not come near me, and I could not come near her. 500 feet minimum distance at all times. As the police left, Derek stood on my lawn, looking torn between his father and his wife. I don't know what to believe anymore, he said quietly. Christina put her hand on his arm. Let's go home, honey. Your father needs to sort himself out. I watched them drive away. As Christina passed, I saw her glance at me through the car window. For just a split second, her frightened expression dropped, and she smiled. A cold, triumphant smile that told me everything I needed to know. She had won this round. Back inside, I called Harold. He sounded tired. I heard, he said. Pascal, this is bad. The restraining order means you can't go near Christina. The conservatorship hearing is Monday. If you're not there to defend yourself, the judge will likely rule in her favor by default. But the restraining order, I said. How can I defend myself if I can't be in the same room with her? We'll file an emergency motion to dissolve the restraining order, Harold said. But that takes time. I don't know if we can get it heard before Monday. I sat down heavily on my couch. Christina had planned this perfectly. The restraining order would keep me away from the hearing. She could tell whatever lies she wanted, and I couldn't be there to contradict them. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt genuine fear. Not fear of losing my money, but fear of losing my freedom, my autonomy, my very identity. Harold worked around the clock filing motions. An emergency motion to dismiss the conservatorship petition. A motion to dissolve the restraining order based on fabricated evidence. A complaint against Christina for fraud and elder abuse. But the legal system moved with agonizing slowness. The earliest any judge could hear our motions was the following Wednesday, 2 days after the conservatorship hearing. We're trapped, I said to Harold during one of our many phone calls. Not yet, he replied, but we need more evidence. Something that proves beyond any doubt that Christina is running a scam. I have recordings, I said. The bank, the house, which she can claim are taken out of context, Harold countered. We need someone to testify against her. Someone on the inside who can corroborate your story. That was when I decided to hire a private investigator. Frank Dawson came recommended by Harold. He was in his 50s, a former police detective who now ran his own investigation firm. When he came to my house, I showed him everything I had. How far back do you want me to dig? Frank asked. As far as you can go, I said. I want to know everything about Christina. Where she came from, who she really is, and who this Jason person is that she's working with. Give me 72 hours, Frank said. While Frank investigated, my life continued to unravel. Derek stopped answering my calls. When I tried to go to his house, I remembered the restraining order. Christina was there. I couldn't go near the place without risking arrest. I tried to email Derek the camera footage, the recordings, everything. But my emails bounced back. He had blocked me. On Thursday, I experienced chest pains and dizziness while making breakfast. The room spun around me, and I had to grab the counter to keep from falling. Terrified I was having a heart attack, I drove myself to the emergency room. The ER staff rushed me through triage. They ran tests, did an EKG, drew blood. After 2 hours, a doctor came to speak with me. Mr. Palmer, you didn't have a heart attack, she said. But we found something concerning in your blood work. What? You have elevated levels of benzodiazepines in your system, the doctor said. Sedatives. Do you take any medications for anxiety or sleep? No, I said. Never have. The doctor frowned. The levels suggest you've been ingesting these drugs regularly for at least a week, maybe longer. Are you sure no one has access to your food or drinks? Christina. The cookies she brought last week. The casseroles. The meals she claimed were gestures of kindness. She had been drugging me. Someone has been poisoning me, I said. The doctor's expression changed. Mr. Palmer, that's a serious accusation. I'm required to report suspected elder abuse. I'm going to call in our social worker. 20 minutes later, a woman named Patricia arrived. She was kind, professional, and listened carefully as I explained everything. The conservatorship petition, the restraining order, my suspicions about Christina. But then she said something that made my heart sink. Mr. Palmer, I actually spoke with your daughter-in-law this morning. She called to let us know you might come to the emergency room. She said you've been confused lately, possibly mixing up your medications. I'm not confused, I said, and I don't take any medications except my blood pressure pills. Patricia nodded sympathetically. but I could see the doubt in her eyes. Christina mentioned that you've been having some cognitive issues. She seemed very worried about you. Christina had called ahead. She knew I would end up in the hospital. She had prepared the narrative before I even arrived. She's lying, I said, but I could hear how desperate I sounded. Please, you have to believe me. I'm going to document everything you've told me, Patricia said gently. But Mr. Palmer, I need you to understand that this kind of confusion, these paranoid thoughts about family members trying to hurt you, can be signs of cognitive decline. I'm not paranoid, I insisted. I have evidence. But even as I said it, I realized how it must sound. An elderly man, recently widowed, claiming his daughter-in-law is drugging him and trying to steal his money. The ER doctor returned with my discharge papers. We're going to note in your file that you should follow up with your primary care physician about the medications in your system. Try to be careful about what you're taking, Mr. Palmer. Medications in your system instead of drugs you were given without your knowledge. Even the documentation was being twisted against me. When I got home that afternoon, I found Harold waiting for me. I heard about the hospital, he said. Pascal, this isn't good. I was poisoned, I said. The drugs in my blood prove it, or they prove you're confused about your medications, Harold said grimly. That's how Christina's lawyers will spin it. In fact, they already have. I received a letter an hour ago from her attorney. Because of your erratic behavior and the hospital incident, they're now seeking an emergency psychiatric evaluation. What does that mean? It means a court-appointed psychiatrist will examine you to determine if you're a danger to yourself or others. If they find that you are, even temporarily, you could be involuntarily committed to a psychiatric facility. The room tilted. When? Tomorrow afternoon, Harold said. And Pascal, the conservatorship hearing is Monday. If they get you committed, even for observation, you'll lose all credibility. The judge will assume Christina is right about your mental state. I sat down, feeling like the air had been knocked out of me. Everything I did to defend myself was being used against me. Every piece of evidence I tried to gather became proof that I was delusional. Christina had set a perfect trap. What do I do? I asked. You show up for that evaluation, Harold said. You be calm, rational, and coherent. I'm hiring an independent psychiatrist, someone who can do a separate evaluation for comparison. We'll show the court that you're completely mentally sound. And if that doesn't work? Harold didn't answer. That night, Frank called. I've got information, he said. You're going to want to sit down for this. I was already sitting. Tell me. Christina's real maiden name is Christina Reeves. She's been married twice before. Both husbands were elderly, wealthy, and widowed. Both died within 2 years of marriage under suspicious circumstances. My blood turned to ice. The first husband, Arthur Reeves, died of an accidental medication overdose at age 73. He had been married to Christina for 2 years. She inherited $400,000. Some family members contested the will, claimed Arthur had changed it shortly before his death, but they couldn't prove anything. And the second? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Norman Cross. He was 68 when he died. Christina had been married to him for 18 months. He fell down the stairs in his home, broke his neck, ruled accidental, but his daughter swore Norman was in perfect health and navigated those stairs daily without issues. Christina inherited his house and $200,000 in savings. 2 dead husbands, both ruled accidents, both leaving Christina wealthy. What about Jason? I asked. Jason Reeves is her brother, Frank said. They work together. Jason has a criminal record in Florida for elder fraud. He served 2 years in prison for a scheme targeting elderly widows. He was released 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Right before Derek met Christina at the grief support group. There's more, Frank continued. I found a storage unit rented under Christina's maiden name. I got inside. Pascal, it's full of forged documents, fake IDs, and files on 4 other elderly men in surrounding states. They're marks. She's researching them. Did you photograph it? Everything, Frank confirmed. This is the evidence we need. Finally, a break. Finally, something that could stop her. There's one other thing, Frank said quietly. I pulled traffic camera footage from around your neighborhood. On Tuesday morning, the day of the restraining order, Jason's car was parked 2 blocks from your house. He was there, waiting. When Christina came over with Derek, Jason left. I think he gave her those bruises right before she went to file the police report. They had staged everything. Frank, we need to take this to the police now, I said. We will, Frank agreed. Tomorrow, after your psychiatric evaluation. We don't want Christina claiming you're making paranoid accusations to avoid the evaluation. Once you're cleared by the psychiatrist, we go to the police with everything. I agreed, though every instinct screamed at me to act immediately. The next day, I showed up for the psychiatric evaluation. Christina's hired psychiatrist asked me questions clearly designed to make me sound paranoid. He focused on my relationship with Christina, on whether I felt people were out to get me, on whether I had been experiencing confusion or memory loss. I answered carefully, calmly. I admitted that my daughter-in-law had betrayed me, but I explained it wasn't paranoia. It was based on evidence. What evidence? He asked. Recordings, I said. Video footage. Financial documents. Have the police verified this evidence? Not yet, I admitted. He made notes, his expression neutral. Harold's independent psychiatrist, Dr. Ellen Walsh, conducted her own evaluation that same afternoon. She was thorough, professional, and focused on my cognitive abilities rather than my family drama. She tested my memory, my reasoning, my ability to manage daily tasks. When she finished, she smiled. Mr. Palmer, you're as sharp as anyone I've evaluated. There's nothing wrong with your cognition. If someone is trying to claim you're mentally incompetent, they're either mistaken or lying. Can you put that in writing? I asked. I already am, she said. We now had dueling evaluations. Christina's psychiatrist would likely say I was declining. Mine said I was fine. At least it created doubt. That evening, Frank called again. The FBI is interested, he said. I contacted them about Christina's previous marriages and her brother's criminal history. This crosses state lines, which puts it in federal jurisdiction. They're opening an investigation. Relief flooded through me. The FBI, real law enforcement, beyond Christina's ability to manipulate. But Pascal, Frank warned, these things take time. I don't know if they'll move fast enough to stop the conservatorship hearing on Monday. 3 days away. 72 hours to somehow prove to a judge that I was competent and Christina was a criminal. On Saturday morning, Derek called. I almost didn't answer, expecting more accusations. Dad, he said, and his voice sounded strained. Can we meet? I need to talk to you. The restraining order, I reminded him. Christina can't be there. She won't be, Derek said. She took Ethan to visit her mother for the weekend. It's just me. Please, Dad. I need to see you. We agreed to meet at a diner across town. Neutral territory. When Derek walked in, he looked exhausted. His eyes were hollow, and he had lost weight. We sat across from each other in a booth, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. I found something, Derek said finally. A bank statement. For an account I didn't know Christina had. She withdrew $50,000 last month. I waited, letting him continue. When I asked her about it, she said it was for a deposit at an elder care facility. For you. She said she was planning ahead, making sure you'd have a good place when the time came. I'm not going into a facility, I said carefully. I'm healthy and capable. I know, Derek said, and he looked up at me with tears in his eyes. Dad, I've been such an idiot. I started digging after I saw that statement. I found emails between Christina and someone named Jason. They're planning something, and it involves you, and I don't think it's what she told me. Hope surged in my chest. Derek, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Your wife is not who you think she is. I told him everything. The bank recording, the camera footage, Frank's investigation into Christina's past marriages, her brother's criminal record, the staged evidence in my house. I showed him the videos on my phone, the recordings, everything. Derek's face went from shock to horror to rage. She was going to leave me, he said quietly. Take everything and disappear with her brother. Not if we stop her, I said, but I need your help. The hearing is Monday. Derek nodded, his jaw set. What do we do? First, we go to the police, I said. Then we call Harold. We're going to bring her down, son. Together. We left the diner and drove to the police station. Derek brought his bank statements, the emails he had found. Combined with my evidence and Frank's investigation, we had enough to file a formal complaint. The desk sergeant listened to our story and called a detective. We spent 3 hours giving statements, providing documentation, explaining the entire conspiracy. We'll investigate, the detective promised. But Mr. Palmer, the conservatorship hearing is civil court, not criminal. Even if we arrest Mrs. Palmer, that doesn't automatically stop the hearing. We understand, Harold said. He had joined us at the station. We just need you to document that there's an active investigation. That's evidence we can present to the judge. As we left the police station, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Mr. Palmer, this is County Hospital Emergency Department. Your son Derek was in a car accident. He's been admitted. You're listed as his emergency contact. The world stopped. What happened? Single car accident. He appears to have been run off the road. His condition is serious but stable. You should come right away. I looked at Derek, standing next to me in the parking lot. Perfectly fine. I'm with Derek right now, I said slowly. He's not in any accident. There was confusion on the other end of the line. I'm sorry. We must have the wrong number. They hung up. I stared at my phone. Dad? Derek asked. What's wrong? They said you were in an accident, I said. But you're here. Understanding dawned on Derek's face. They were checking to see if we were together. Christina knows I'm with you. As if on cue, Derek's phone rang. It was Christina. Don't answer it, I said. But Derek did. Hello? I could hear Christina's voice, frantic and high-pitched, through the phone. Derek, where are you? I've been calling and calling. Why did you go to see your father? I told you he's dangerous. I'm fine, Christina, Derek said, his voice cold in a way I had never heard. We need to talk when you get home. Derek, please, listen to me. Whatever your father told you, it's not true. He's sick. He needs help. I saw the emails, Derek said. I know about Jason. I know about the money. I know everything. There was silence on the other end. Then Christina's voice changed, became hard. You shouldn't have done that, Derek. She hung up. Derek looked at me, his face pale. Dad, I think I need to go home. If she's there with Ethan, go, I said. But be careful. Derek nodded and headed to his car. I watched him drive away, a sick feeling in my stomach. That feeling was justified. An hour later, I got a call from the hospital. The real call this time. Derek had been in an accident. Someone had forced his car off the road on the highway. He was alive but unconscious. They were running tests. I raced to the hospital, Harold meeting me there. When we arrived, the doctor told us Derek had suffered head trauma and was in a medically induced coma. They needed to reduce brain swelling. When can I see him? I asked. Family only, the nurse said. Are you the father? Yes. I'm sorry, sir. But we have instructions that only his wife can visit. Christina arrived an hour later. She swept into the hospital with tears streaming down her face, playing the role of devastated wife perfectly. When she saw me in the waiting room, her tears stopped for just a second. Our eyes met, and I saw the truth. She had done this. She or Jason had run Derek off the road. My son had discovered her secret, and she had tried to kill him to keep it quiet. Christina went into Derek's room. I tried to follow, but hospital security stopped me. Sir, you need to stay back. That's my son, I said. And we have specific instructions from his wife, the guard said. I'm sorry. I stood outside Derek's room, watching through the window as Christina sat beside his bed, holding his hand, crying. Such a perfect performance. Harold pulled me aside. Pascal, we need to move fast. If Derek dies. He's not going to die, I said fiercely. But if he does, Harold continued grimly. Christina inherits everything as his wife, including his share of your eventual estate. And as Derek's wife, she has medical power of attorney. She makes decisions about his care. The implications hit me like a physical blow. She could let him die, or she could make it look like complications from the accident, Harold said. Pascal, We need to get you temporary guardianship. We need to override her medical authority. Can we do that? With Derek incapacitated and evidence that Christina is a threat, yes. But it will take time. Maybe not enough time. I looked through the window at my unconscious son. Christina was speaking to the doctor, nodding seriously, playing the concerned wife. Everything I loved was being destroyed. My son was dying. My freedom was about to be stripped away. My life savings were being stolen. And the woman responsible was winning on every front. But I wasn't done fighting yet. I spent the night at the hospital, sleeping in a chair in the waiting room. Hospital staff tried to make me leave, but I refused. My son was in there, and Christina could do anything. I needed to be close. On Sunday morning, Harold arrived with news. None of it good. Christina's lawyer filed new motions last night, he said, handing me papers. They're seeking an emergency psychiatric evaluation for you, claiming your behavior at the hospital proves you're unstable. They're also requesting Derek's accident be investigated as potentially related to your mental state, suggesting maybe you had something to do with it. I stared at him, disbelieving. She's blaming me for the accident? She's throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, Harold said. And there's worse news. The psychiatrist evaluation is scheduled for this afternoon, 2 hours from now. If you don't show up, they'll issue a warrant. If you do show up, and they determine you're a risk, you'll be committed. Either way, you won't be at the conservatorship hearing tomorrow. This is insane, I said. I have evidence. Frank's investigation, the recordings, everything. I've filed motions to introduce all of it at tomorrow's hearing, Harold said. But Pascal, without you there to testify, and with Derek unconscious, it's going to be an uphill battle. Christina appeared in the hallway, flanked by a doctor. They were deep in conversation. I watched as the doctor nodded, made notes on a clipboard. What's she doing? I asked Harold. I don't know, but it can't be good. I approached them, staying just far enough away not to violate the restraining order. What's going on? I called out. Christina looked at me with red, swollen eyes. The doctors say Derek's injuries are more severe than they thought. They're recommending we discuss his long-term care options. Long-term care options. Code for pulling life support. No, I said. Absolutely not. It's not your decision, Christina said softly. I'm his wife. I have medical power of attorney. The doctor looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Palmer, we're not at that point yet. Your husband is stable. We're monitoring him closely. But if his condition doesn't improve? Christina pressed. Let's take this one day at a time, the doctor said diplomatically. I pulled Harold aside. She's going to kill him. We have to stop her. I'm filing an emergency injunction right now, Harold said, pulling out his phone. We'll argue that Christina has a conflict of interest, that there's evidence she caused the accident. It might buy us time. Frank called, while Harold was making calls. Pascal, I have an update. Jason was arrested an hour ago. For what? The FBI moved fast. They raided the storage unit and found enough evidence to charge him with conspiracy to commit elder fraud. They also found something else. Jason's car has front-end damage consistent with running another vehicle off the road. They impounded it. They're testing paint samples now to see if it matches Derek's car. How long will that take? Could be days. Could be hours. Depends on how fast the lab works. We don't have days, I said. I know. But Pascal, listen. Gary Thompson, the bank manager, he's talking to federal investigators. He's agreed to testify about the bribery scheme. That's solid evidence of criminal conspiracy. Between Gary's testimony and Jason's arrest, we have a real case. But the hearing is tomorrow, I said. Will any of this be admissible in civil court? Harold's arguing that it should be, Frank said. The existence of a federal criminal investigation is relevant to Christina's credibility. The psychiatric evaluation that afternoon was surreal. The court-appointed psychiatrist asked me questions clearly designed to assess whether I was delusional. Do you believe people are trying to harm you, Mr. Palmer? Yes, I said. Because they are. My daughter-in-law has been arrested. She hasn't been arrested, the psychiatrist interrupted. You said she's been arrested? Not yet. But her brother has been. For elder fraud. Because they were working together, the psychiatrist made notes. Do you have proof of this? The FBI arrested him yesterday. Call them. More notes. Mr. Palmer, do you sometimes have trouble distinguishing between what's real and what you've imagined? No, I said firmly. Everything I'm telling you is documented. I have recordings, video footage, bank statements. I can show you everything. How much time do you spend thinking about this alleged conspiracy? All of my time, I admitted, because it's real and it's happening right now. After 2 hours, the evaluation ended. The psychiatrist's expression gave nothing away. You'll receive my report tomorrow, he said. Tomorrow, the day of the hearing, I went back to the hospital. Ethan, Derek's 6-year-old son, was there with Christina. My grandson saw me and ran over. Grandpa, he said, Daddy's sick. I knelt down, hugged him close. I know, buddy, but he's going to be okay. Christina appeared and pulled Ethan back. Come here, sweetie. Grandpa can't visit right now. Why not? Ethan asked, confused. Because Grandpa is sick too, Christina said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. He needs to go rest. She led Ethan away, and I watched my grandson look back at me, not understanding why his grandfather couldn't come closer. That night, I hardly slept. The conservatorship hearing was at 9 in the morning. I had no idea if the psychiatric evaluation would clear me or condemn me. Derek was still unconscious. Christina was one signature away from pulling his life support. Everything hung by a thread. Monday morning arrived. Harold met me outside the courthouse. The FBI has agreed to send a representative to testify about the ongoing investigation, he said. That's good news. And Frank will testify about what he found. We also have Dr. Walsh's psychiatric evaluation stating you're completely competent. What about the court-ordered evaluation? I asked. We'll find out inside, Harold said grimly. The courtroom was small, just a civil hearing room. Judge Patricia Morrison presided. Christina sat at one table with her attorney, a sharp-looking woman named Karen Hughes. I sat with Harold at another. Christina wouldn't look at me. She stared straight ahead, her hands folded in her lap, the picture of a concerned, dutiful daughter-in-law. Judge Morrison called the hearing to order. We're here regarding a petition for conservatorship over Pascal Palmer. Mrs. Hughes, you may present your case. Christina's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client Christina Palmer is seeking conservatorship over her father-in-law due to his declining mental capacity. We have submitted a letter from his physician stating he is no longer fit to manage his affairs. We also have documentation of incidents proving Mr. Palmer's cognitive decline. Unpaid bills, items placed in inappropriate locations like car keys in the freezer, aggressive behavior including physical assault of my client, and most recently, erratic behavior at the hospital, where his son is currently in critical condition. Your Honor, Harold stood. That physician's letter is a forgery. Dr. Foster has filed a police report confirming he never wrote such a letter. Judge Morrison raised her eyebrows. Is this true? Karen Hughes looked momentarily flustered. Your Honor, we were provided that letter by Mrs. Palmer. If it's inauthentic, she was as deceived as anyone. Convenient, Harold muttered. Mr. Brennan, do you have evidence this is a forgery? The judge asked. Yes, Your Honor. Harold submitted documents. Dr. Foster's sworn statement, handwriting analysis, and the police report. The judge reviewed them, frowning. Mrs. Hughes, this is concerning. Your Honor, even without the letter, we have substantial evidence of Mr. Palmer's decline. The psychiatric evaluation conducted on Saturday, which found no evidence of cognitive impairment, Harold interrupted, submitting Dr. Walsh's report. There were 2 evaluations, Karen said. The court ordered evaluation. A clerk handed a document to the judge. Judge Morrison read it, her expression neutral. The court-ordered psychiatrist found that Mr. Palmer exhibits signs of paranoid thinking and an inability to accurately assess reality. However, he did not find Mr. Palmer exhibits signs of paranoid thinking. Palmer to be an immediate danger to himself or others. My heart sank. Not committed, but branded as paranoid. Your Honor, Harold said urgently, Mr. Palmer's so-called paranoid thinking is based on documented evidence of an actual conspiracy. I request permission to call witnesses. Proceed, the judge said. Frank took the stand first. He detailed his investigation. Christina's 2 previous marriages to elderly men who died suspiciously, Jason's criminal record, the storage unit full of forged documents, and the files on other potential victims. Karen cross-examined. Mr. Dawson, did you actually witness Mrs. Palmer commit any crimes? No, but the evidence. Evidence you obtained by breaking into a storage unit without a warrant? Frank hesitated. The door was unlocked. So you trespassed. And you expect this court to accept illegally obtained evidence to strip a loving wife and daughter-in-law of her reputation? Judge Morrison looked troubled. Mr. Brennan, while Mr. Dawson's testimony is interesting, much of this evidence may not be admissible. Your Honor, Harold said desperately, the FBI has opened a criminal investigation into Mrs. Palmer and her brother. Special Agent Rodriguez is here to testify. A man in a dark suit stood from the back of the courtroom and came forward. He presented his credentials. Your Honor, the FBI is actively investigating Christina Palmer and Jason Reeves for a pattern of elder fraud across multiple states. We've arrested Jason Reeves, and he's cooperating with our investigation. While I can't discuss details of an ongoing case, I can confirm that there is substantial evidence of criminal activity. Alleged criminal activity, Karen interjected. My client hasn't been charged with anything. Not yet, Agent Rodriguez said meaningfully. Judge Morrison leaned back in her chair, thinking, this is highly unusual. Mrs. Hughes, your client is under federal investigation? An investigation is not a conviction, Your Honor, Karen said smoothly. And it has no bearing on whether Mr. Palmer is mentally competent to manage his own affairs. It has bearing on whether Mrs. Palmer should be the one managing them, Harold argued. The judge was about to respond when the courtroom doors opened. A hospital orderly rushed in. I'm looking for Pascal Palmer, he said. I stood. That's me. Sir, you need to come to the hospital right away. Your son is awake. The courtroom erupted into noise. I looked at the judge. Go, she said. This hearing is continued until tomorrow morning at 9. Mr. Palmer, be prepared to testify. Mrs. Palmer, do not leave the jurisdiction. I ran out of the courthouse, Harold and Frank behind me. We drove to the hospital at dangerous speeds. Derek was awake. When I burst into his room, he was groggy, confused but alive. Dad, he said, his voice rough. I'm here, son, I said, grabbing his hand. You're going to be okay. Christina was in the corner of the room, her face pale. A police detective stood next to her. Mrs. Palmer, the detective said, we need to ask you some questions about your husband's accident. Not now, Christina said. My husband just woke up. Derek, the detective said, can you tell us what happened? Do you remember the accident? Derek's eyes focused. Someone ran me off the road. A truck. It hit my car from behind and pushed me into the guardrail. Did you see the driver? Derek closed his eyes, thinking. It happened so fast. But the truck was a dark-colored pickup. And I think I saw it earlier. It was following me from Dad's house. The detective looked at Christina. Mrs. Palmer, where were you on Saturday afternoon? With my son, Christina said. At my mother's house. 2 hours away. And Jason Reeves? Christina's face hardened. I don't know where he was. We're not attached at the hip. Your brother is in federal custody, the detective said. His vehicle matches the description of the truck that ran your husband off the road. Paint transfer analysis confirms his truck made contact with your husband's car. Derek stared at Christina. Your brother tried to kill me? I didn't know, Christina said, her voice breaking. Derek, I swear I didn't know. Liar, Derek said, and the word was filled with such pain. You knew everything. You've been lying to me since the day we met. Christina's mask cracked. For just a moment, I saw rage flash across her face before she covered it with tears. Mrs. Palmer, the detective said, I'm placing you under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and accessory to attempted murder. As they led Christina away in handcuffs, she looked back at me. No more fake tears. No more scared victim act. Just cold hatred. This isn't over, she said. But it was. The next 72 hours were a blur of legal motions, police statements, and hospital vigils. Derek's condition stabilized quickly. The doctors said he was lucky. His injuries could have been much worse. Harold filed emergency motions on every front. suspend Christina's medical power of attorney, dissolve the restraining order, dismiss the conservatorship petition, and freeze all joint accounts to prevent Christina from accessing any more money. The FBI accelerated their investigation. With Jason in custody and Derek's testimony about the attempt on his life, they had enough to charge Christina with multiple federal crimes. Gary Thompson, the bank manager, facing his own criminal charges, provided detailed testimony about the bribery scheme. He had recorded some of his conversations with Christina, covering himself in case the plan fell apart. Those recordings were damning. Christina's attorney tried to fight, but the evidence was overwhelming. The forged doctor's note, the staged evidence in my home captured on camera, the emails planning my exploitation, the storage unit full of fraud materials, Jason's confession about running Derek off the road, and Gary's testimony about the bribery, all painted a clear picture. On Wednesday morning, Judge Morrison called an emergency hearing. Christina appeared via video from jail, her expensive clothes replaced by an orange jumpsuit. After reviewing all the evidence presented, Judge Morrison said, "I am denying the petition for conservatorship. Furthermore, I am ordering a full investigation into Mrs. Palmer's conduct and referring this matter to the district attorney for criminal prosecution." Harold squeezed my shoulder. We won. But it wasn't really about winning. It was about survival. The district attorney charged Christina with elder fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted murder for Derek's accident, forgery, identity theft, embezzlement, and filing false police reports. Jason faced similar charges, plus the actual attempted murder charge for running Derek off the road. Gary, the bank manager, lost his job and faced fraud charges. He eventually took a plea deal, agreeing to testify against Christina in exchange for a reduced sentence. As the investigation deepened, more victims came forward. The FBI reopened investigations into Christina's 2 previous husbands' deaths. New evidence suggested Arthur Reeves's medication overdose wasn't accidental, and Norman Cross was pushed down those stairs. Christina's first trial was scheduled for attempted murder. With Jason's testimony, Derek's statement, and the physical evidence from Jason's truck, the prosecution had an airtight case. During the trial, I sat in the courtroom every day, watching Christina's careful facade crumble. The jury saw through her tears and manipulations. They heard about the pattern of targeting vulnerable widowers, the systematic exploitation, the willingness to commit murder to cover her crimes. The verdict came back in less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Christina was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. Jason received 30 years for his role and his previous convictions. The judge called them predators, who targeted the most vulnerable members of our society for financial gain, showing absolutely no remorse. As Christina was led away, she didn't look at me. She kept her eyes forward, her face blank, the mask finally abandoned. Derek's recovery took longer than his physical healing. The emotional wounds ran deep. "I brought her into our lives," he said one afternoon as we sat in my living room. "I introduced her to you. I gave her access to everything. She was a professional con artist," I told him. "She fooled everyone, including grief counselors and support group leaders. You can't blame yourself for falling for an expert manipulation." "But I didn't believe you," Derek said, his voice breaking. "When you tried to warn me, I took her side. I thought you were losing your mind. You believed her because she gave you no reason not to," I said. "And when you found the truth, you came to me. That took courage." Derek filed for divorce immediately. The court granted him full custody of Ethan. Christina tried to fight it from prison, but given her criminal convictions, she had no chance. The judge terminated her parental rights entirely. Ethan was too young to fully understand what his mother had done, but he knew she had hurt people. Derek and I agreed to be honest with him in age-appropriate ways, never speaking ill of Christina, but also not pretending she was someone she wasn't. "Mommy made some very bad choices," Derek told his son. "She hurt people, and now she has to face consequences. But that doesn't change that Grandpa and I love you very much." The financial recovery took months. I had to file civil lawsuits to recover money Christina had stolen. The bank settled out of court for a substantial sum, covering both my stolen funds and additional damages for their manager's complicity. Insurance covered most of Derek's medical bills from the accident. The civil suit against Christina and Jason recovered some additional funds, though most of what they had stolen was already spent or hidden. I established a trust for Ethan's future, making sure my grandson would have resources for college and beyond. I also updated my will, creating clear protections against anyone trying to exploit me or my family again. 6 months after Christina's conviction, Pascal sat in his living room with Harold, Frank, and Derek, reviewing everything that had happened. "You saved 11 other people," Frank said, showing me a report. After Christina's arrest, 11 other elderly men came forward. She had targeted them at various stages. Some lost money, but because of your case, the FBI shut down her operation before she could do more damage. "I wish I could have stopped her before she hurt anyone," I said. "You can't change the past," Harold said. "But you change the future for a lot of people." This case led to new legislation in our state, stronger protections against elder financial abuse, mandatory reporting requirements for banks, enhanced penalties for predatory conservatorships. Christina's case is being used as a teaching example in law schools and medical schools, Frank added. How to recognize elder fraud, how predators operate, what warning signs to look for. Derek had been quiet. Now he spoke. "Dad, I need to say something. When this all started, when Christina first began manipulating me, I should have seen it. I should have trusted my instincts. But I was grieving Mom, and Christina seemed so perfect, so understanding. She preyed on your grief," I said. "That was her specialty. She found vulnerable people and exploited their pain." "I know," Derek said. "But I've learned something. When someone seems too perfect, too understanding, too helpful, it's worth looking closer. Real people are flawed. Real relationships take work. Christina's perfection was a red flag I missed." "We all missed it," I said. "Even me at first." "But you saw the truth when it mattered," Derek countered. "You didn't give up. You gathered evidence, you fought back, and you saved us all. Dad, you're the bravest person I know." I thought about Helen, about how she would have handled this situation. She always said I was stubborn, that I never knew when to quit. For once, that stubbornness had saved us. "I had help," I said, looking at Harold and Frank. "I couldn't have done this alone." "But you had to take that first step," Harold said. "You had to start recording, start documenting, start fighting. A lot of people in your situation would have given up, would have let the system roll over them." "Giving up wasn't an option," I said simply. "Not when my family was at stake." The morning Derek was released from the hospital for good, we stood in the parking lot, looking at the building where he had almost died. "I keep thinking about that moment," Derek said, "when Jason's truck hit my car. In that split second, I thought about Ethan, about you, about everything I was going to miss. And I thought, I can't let Christina win. I can't let her destroy our family." "She didn't win," I said. "We're still here. We're still together." Derek turned to me. "Because you fought for us. Even when I didn't believe you. Even when the entire system seemed stacked against you, you kept fighting." We went back to my house, where Ethan was waiting with a neighbor who had been watching him. My grandson ran into Derek's arms, and I watched father and son embrace, knowing how close we had come to losing this. Over the next few months, our lives slowly returned to normal. Derek moved back into his own house with Ethan, but we saw each other constantly. Tuesday dinners became a sacred tradition again, this time including Ethan. I started speaking at senior centers, sharing my story, teaching other elderly people how to protect themselves from predatory caregivers and financial scammers. The response was overwhelming. So many people had experienced similar situations, or knew someone who had. "The key is documentation," I told one group. "The moment something feels wrong, start recording. Keep a journal. Take photos. Save emails. Don't trust your memory alone. Because people like Christina will claim you're confused or forgetful." I also emphasized the importance of maintaining connections with family and friends. "Isolators want to cut you off from your support system," I explained. "They want you alone and vulnerable. If someone is pushing away your family members, making you doubt the people who love you, that's a red flag." The FBI asked me to participate in a training video for agents investigating elder fraud. I agreed, hoping my experience could help others recognize these crimes faster. Detective Morrison, who had worked Derek's hit-and-run case, told me that my camera footage and recordings had been crucial. Most victims don't have that kind of evidence, she said. They try to explain what happened, but it sounds paranoid without proof. You documented everything, and that made all the difference. 1 year after Christina's conviction, I received a letter from one of her other victims, a man named Walter Jenkins. He had been married to Christina between her first and second husbands, something we hadn't known during the trial. I thought I was going crazy, Walter wrote. She was doing the same things to me that she did to you. The forged documents, the claims I was incompetent, the isolation. But I didn't have evidence. My family tried to have her investigated, but she disappeared before anything could be proven. When I heard about your case, I finally understood that it wasn't me. I wasn't losing my mind. She was a professional predator. Thank you for stopping her. Reading Walter's letter, I felt a mix of sadness and relief. Sadness that he had suffered with no justice. Relief that at least now he had answers. Derek was rebuilding his life. He dated cautiously, never rushing into anything, always watching for warning signs. He was a better father to Ethan, more present, more aware. I thought I could have it all, he told me one evening. The perfect wife, the perfect family, the perfect life. But perfect isn't real. Real is messy and complicated and sometimes painful, but it's honest. Your mother and I weren't perfect, I said, thinking of Helen. We fought sometimes. We disagreed. We struggled through hard times. But we were real with each other. That's what made it work. I want that, Derek said. Someday, when I'm ready. You'll know when the time is right, I assured him. Ethan thrived. Children are resilient in ways adults aren't. He had rough days, moments when he missed his mother despite everything she had done. Derek and I were honest with him in age-appropriate ways, never hiding the truth, but also not overwhelming him with adult problems. Mommy made bad choices, became Ethan's simple understanding. She hurt people, so she can't be with us anymore. It wasn't complete, but it was enough for a 6-year-old. On the 2-year anniversary of that day, I walked into the bank and overheard Christina's scheme. I stood at Helen's grave with Derek and Ethan. We did it, honey, I said, touching her headstone. We protected our family. I know you would have fought harder than I did, probably would have handled it all better, but I did my best. Derek put his hand on my shoulder. She'd be proud of you, Dad. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of Grandpa, too, Ethan said, not fully understanding but knowing it was important. Looking at my son and grandson, I thought about everything we had been through. The betrayal, the fear, the legal battles, the near-death experience. Christina had tried to destroy us, to steal everything we had built, to tear our family apart. But she failed. We were still standing, still together, still fighting for each other. That evening, back at my house, Derek helped me cook dinner while Ethan did homework at the kitchen table. It was ordinary, mundane, beautiful in its simplicity. Dad, Derek said as we chopped vegetables, what would you say to someone going through something similar? Someone who thinks their family member is being exploited? I thought about it carefully. I'd tell them to trust their instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking you're paranoid or overreacting. Document everything. Gather evidence. Don't confront the predator until you have proof, because they'll twist your words and use them against you. And if no one believes them? Derek asked. Keep fighting, I said. Find people who will listen. Lawyers, investigators, law enforcement. It took me a long time to find the right people who understood what was happening, but they're out there. You just have to be persistent. You never gave up, Derek said. Even when I didn't believe you, even when it looked hopeless. Giving up meant losing everything, I said simply. My freedom, my home, my relationship with you and Ethan. I couldn't let that happen. So I fought. We finished cooking and sat down to eat. Ethan told us about his day at school, about his friends, about a science project he was excited about. Normal life. Beautiful, precious, normal life. After dinner, as Derek and Ethan were leaving, my son hugged me tightly. Thank you, he whispered, for saving us. We saved each other, I replied. You found the truth. You came back to me when it mattered most. Watching them drive away, I thought about everything I had learned. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. Evil can wear a beautiful mask. The system isn't always fair, but justice is worth fighting for. And family, real family, is worth any battle. Christina sits in prison now, facing decades behind bars. Jason is in a different facility. His career as a predator permanently ended. Gary Thompson lost everything, his reputation destroyed by his greed. And I'm still here, in the house Helen and I built together, watching our grandson grow up, supporting our son as he heals, and trying to help others avoid the nightmare we survived. When someone tries to steal everything you've built, everything you love, you have two choices. You can surrender, let them take it all, accept defeat. Or you can fight back with everything you have, documenting, strategizing, refusing to give up until justice prevails. I chose to fight, and I won. Not just for me, but for Derek, for Ethan, for Helen's memory, and for every other person who has faced similar predators. My victory became their warning, their protection, their evidence that these criminals can be stopped. The smile I froze on Christina's face that day outside the bank manager's office, when I pressed record and captured her conspiracy, that was the beginning of her end. She thought she was clever, untouchable, that she had planned everything perfectly. But she underestimated one thing: a father's love for his son, and a man's refusal to be victimized without a fight. That was her fatal mistake. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like someone in your life wasn't who they claimed to be? Have you noticed warning signs that someone might be manipulating a family member or friend? Trust those instincts. Don't ignore that feeling that something is wrong. If my story helped you, or if you know someone who needs to hear it, please share this video. Hit that like button so more people can find this story and learn from what happened to my family. Subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about survival, justice, and never giving up when everything seems lost. And please, leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts. Share your own experiences if you feel comfortable, or just let me know this resonated with you. Your stories matter, and they might help someone else going through a similar nightmare. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for caring about what happened to my family. And remember, when someone tries to take everything from you, fight back. Document everything. Find your allies. Never give up. Stay safe out there. Protect yourselves and your loved ones. And may you never have to face what I faced, but if you do, may you have the strength to fight and the wisdom to win. This is Pascal, signing off. Take care of each other.